Stevenson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Tom.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mark that in the notes.
John O'Brien and Greg are not here. Minutes from 11:18. Does everyone have minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
I just have one, I mean, Ms. Krucha, the 30+ hours, do they pay that currently? It says healthcare is offered to anyone working 30+ hours. That was coming down the road, but in the minutes it says it was noted that healthcare is offered to anyone who's doing
That she said that, so
Where is
No.
this?
is that after? the
Healthcare,
vote?
30 hours is part-time right now, and
Okay.
healthcare is not offered.
Okay, so I think we should take that
But
out.
it will be on it.
It will be.
She said.
Well,
Okay, so I have to put
pursuant
that
to
in?
the ACA,
Okay.
as the law currently stands,
Where do you find that?
it will be
Right here,
offered.
it's on number 5.
You can pay a penalty and not offer it.
We've priced out the
Right.
penalty.
Last paragraph?
We're pricing
Yeah.
it.
I'll take it out.
So what he's doing.
I just
That
picked
feels like-
it up and I didn't think that was it.
$4,000?
Should I
It's a-
put will be or should I
will
put
be.
not about?
It's
Put
a
will be?
formula, it's,
And not as an issue to amend the minutes, but
it'd be like 90 grand for us.
when I read the minutes and it said somebody inquired
Versus
about
paying $1 million.
something, it doesn't say what was asked and what the answer was, so to me it's.
Well, I asked, what
Is it
it
about
tells
that?
what you inquired, but doesn't tell what the answer was. I mean, he said, she said, there's really, nobody
Well,
puts that in the
because we
minutes.
asked the question and we want to know what the answer is,
We're
and
looking.
it goes, moves
We're still
on.
looking at it. We haven't determined what.
Mr. O'Brien inquired about the football field. Mr. O'Brien inquired about the cold weather glue for the turf.
That's how I always do it. If you want answers in there too, I mean,
Well, I'm just bringing that up. We'll go on this motion for now, but it's something we should think about.
so you want the questions and the answers in here. I mean, the he said, she said.
Yeah, but it's not
And
he said,
people's
she said,
minutes.
it's what the board said and what somebody on the board said.
I know, but in minutes, that's really not what they're for. I mean, it's, you know, it's being recorded, it's on CD if you wanna hear all that.
Okay.
I mean, that's the way I see it. If you guys want it really that detailed, I don't know if I can do all that.
Okay.
I'm not making it as part of this motion. so I'm just-
No, maybe we should explore that in the future, though. I guess I tend to agree, if someone picks up the minutes and wants to know what went on, it probably would be a good thing to have the answer to the inquiry. But we'll bring that up at another date. So any other discussion on the approval of these minutes with that one amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And no abstentions. Board of Ed had a time conflict. They will be here next meeting. Bob is not here.
Bob had dental surgery.
Lisa is not here.
Bob, I handed out, everybody has his report.
Yep.
In fact, as you can see, well, first of all, he says nothing looks abnormal. And I think what you're seeing is, and I think earlier on, when we were 3 months into the year and 4 months into the year, the percent expended was a little bit higher, a lot higher. It was like 5% more than last year. And I think what you're seeing is it's now coming a little bit more into line because of some of the costs that were front-loaded. I don't see anything, and I went through every line item today, and I don't see anything that I am particularly concerned about in here. You know, the Catherine Hepburn, I forget who made Brad, I think you were talking about, or a few of us were talking about maintenance issues, and we have a maintenance contract at the Catherine Hepburn Cultural Arts Center, and then we had, in addition to paying that, we had a one-time visit, or a couple of them that were 600, one was 600, one was 700, so we're already over the maintenance budget on that. or we're right around the year-end maintenance budget. But what I'm saying is, we have a maintenance contract, but then we had some other issues come up with the building. You know, everybody knows.
But the contract is gonna, we continue through till June.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody knows Chuck Still
Yep.
is retiring. That's kind of a side note there. The other item in here that you might pick up on is on page 2, under contingency, I think it's 4282. There was a retirement, and we have, as you know, we moved retirement and catastrophic off budget so that we could try to accumulate funds over the course of several years. But we had a retirement, we only had 10,000 in there, and the payout was 25,000. So what we may do at a later date in the year, just so I haven't gone through mine or the town's entire contingency, I'm just giving you guys a heads up. At a later date, we may come to you and ask you to reclassify the funds. In other words, restore the contingency account, the 15,000.
It says 20 here right now.
Well, it says 20, but we've expended,
19.5.
yeah, most of it. And most of that was payout in a retirement. So what I may have you do at a later date, we're gonna see if we get any other retirements before the end of the year, is appropriate the money in the off-budget account for those retirements, and that would restore the contingency account.
Retirement is what, sick pay or carryover vacation pay, or what is that?
It's a variety, yeah, yes,
Is that for the police department?
yes. Well, that one happened to be for the police department, but it could be any town hall employee. They get some sick days, and it's just in their contract. I know, so.
I won't comment on that.
Those were the two accounts that kinda, I thought warranted an explanation. So in other words, by the end of the year, I will probably be asking you to restore some of the money back to not the end of the year, but maybe in March or April, restore some of the money, the contingency account, and appropriate monies to the retirement account. But I don't want you to have to do that twice in case we get another retirement.
Appropriate
Where's it
from
coming
where to
from?
where?
I'm sorry, where's
Where
it
to
coming
where?
from?
I'm going right on.
Where's it coming from?
Where is what coming from?
So you replenish it.
So what you would do is the contingency account started at 20,000. Let's say we end up the year with 20,000 in retirement payout. What I'd probably have you do from the undesignated fund balance, from your fund balance, take money from the fund balance and put it in the off-budget retirement account so it balances out. And that's how it would be. On a side note, looking at a few other towns, reading locally what other towns have done. Other towns have had to do the same thing we did in terms of balancing the books at the end of the year, like we did at the town meeting. Essex just did that with 2 or 3 accounts. So, and we've traditionally done it. We did it Monday night. There should be questions about those items, but on the other hand, it's just the way a lot of these towns run their budgets, and at the end of the year, we balance them like that. But I did notice that a few other towns were doing the exact same thing at their annual town meeting. So that's this, for your information. Bob told me he was fearing he would not be able to talk if he came here tonight. And so I'm handing these out to you, and I can, if you want me to, I can scan them and send them to John and whoever else I'm missing.
Great.
Right.
Okay.
What is the balance on the undesignated fund balance at this point? You know what it is? Where it is, or?
Yeah.
Does it show up?
No, it's not in there. We are at about, well, assuming some of the FEMA monies come in, we're going to be at about 8%, Barry.
Okay.
8% of our operating budget,
Okay.
okay?
Which equates to?
How many million? Three-ish? Yeah.
Thank you.
And, for rate rating purposes, but not that we'll be doing any ratings anytime soon, I hope. But just for general purposes, towns generally, we've carried anywhere from 5% to, since I was on the Board of Finance and here, anywhere from 5% to 10%. We're at about 8% now. If you look at a lot of towns, a lot of towns can be as high as 15%. The rating agencies love that. The taxpayers may not. That's a lot of money to carry in an undesignated account. But anywhere between, we should be up over 8, and anywhere between 8 and 15% is satisfactory. And we're about as high as we've been in a little while.
That gives us the A, double A, triple A.
Yeah, double A too,
rating.
yeah, I mean, they wanna see that. They
Yeah.
wanna see that you have reasonably healthy, significant cash reserves in case of an emergency. And, so.
All right.
Move to accept the treasurer's report.
Do you don't make motions usually? But thank you.
Well, you gave it to him.
Yeah, well, I just handed it out to you guys, so Bob brought this into me yesterday.
In going through the agenda, I was remiss in not asking for public comment. So I will ask, is there any public comment? Yes?
I just have one comment to make. I was at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting, and I just have to say that I really think you guys all, whether the other people do or not, personally, I feel you work very hard at trying to be fair and at asking questions to get things answered, to make a good judgment. And I was kind of disappointed that you were pressured into changing and not being given extra time on the boat business so that you could talk about it a little more. And then I was disappointed when it got pushed through that it wasn't on the town meeting. And a lot of other people were under the same opinion, but
But it was never intended to be
well,
on
we
that.
thought it was. I
Well-
got the opinion from being here that it was going to go to that.
You thought it, well, no, you got
It sounded that way.
A lot of people got the opinion that it was going to be based on the newspaper.
No, but it sounded like it
Okay.
even from the meeting here.
Yeah, all right, well,
Because I sat here listening and I said, it sounded like the reason for pushing it through and getting it done was so that it could
Yeah.
get put on that
never,
agenda.
that was never, and
All right,
and
well, it
truly,
wasn't, that wasn't
Yeah,
clear. That's
yeah.
the only part that wasn't clear. But I do have to commend the Board of Finance for the way they handled themselves.
Thank you.
While we're on that subject, I can be a public comment too, right?
You certainly can.
Thank you. Have you had any thought about bringing that to referendum?
Yeah, I mean, I've, in fact, a letter was submitted by, to me, and I was gonna bring it up at my next Board of Selectmen meeting, by Barry, John, and Tom, to go directly to referendum. I am not inclined to do that for an expenditure of $90,000 to spend over $5,000 on a referendum. There is a process, and here's your answer. There's a process for bringing something like this to referendum, and that is petitioning it to referendum.
Would you need 120 signatures?
200, I think it's 200.
It's 200?
And, you know, why, I don't know why I would change historically what the process is, just because it's this particular item. So
Well,
that is my inclination.
I tell you, I'm disappointed. I wanted to postpone it for 2 weeks. We didn't postpone it. I think we needed time to think about it, talk about it. And I know there's an undercurrent of people that are not happy about the way the process went down. And
There is.
I feel bad about it. And I think that because of that fact, I think there should be an exception here that goes to referendum.
Well, people can be unhappy with a lot of different votes. I don't know that necessarily, I'm gonna disagree with you respectfully. I don't know that just because of the way it went down, that it would automatically go to referendum.
I didn't say that. I said give the people the opportunity since they didn't like the process. I didn't say because of it. I said.
Okay, and there is, at the town meeting, people will have that opportunity to vote, either by secret ballot potentially, or by voice vote, or prior to that, move it to referendum. I think in the interest of consistency and the way the town has operated probably for the last 50 years, it would be rare to bring a non-budget, non-bonded item to referendum. I can't remember one, maybe you guys can, and I'm not saying there wasn't one. I'm just saying I can't remember one. And I think to make an exception potentially leads to the next one that should be an exception.
All right, so then really the answer is if
There's a methodology
people
for
work
it.
that way,
Yeah,
they'll do it
and
accordingly.
that is,
The process.
we will discuss this at the next Board of Selectmen meeting because a letter has been submitted. So I will bring it up.
And when will that meeting be?
It'll be next Tuesday at 3:30.
Okay. Is there any other public comment?
I just wanted to know, do you have any idea as to when you might have the town meeting to discuss that? Do you have anything in the, after the
so
first of the year, or?
Not this year. It won't be,
Okay,
I'm not
before
gonna
the-
do,
after
I'm
the
not gonna
first.
do that to people in December.
After the first of the year, all right.
Yeah, it'll be in January or February is my guess. I don't, the question is, would it be a single item town meeting or not a single item town meeting? You know, frequently I try to gather a few items for town
Mhm.
meeting because there are other costs associated with the town meeting, like advertising.
Well, that's why everybody was kind of expecting it to be on the last meeting,
we
even
did-
though I know you say it wasn't
we had
slated. They were
6
expecting it because that would have been a grouping.
We had 6 items on that town
Yeah,
meeting. We had a
right.
very busy town meeting.
Well, it was, I was there, but
Yeah.
it still had time, the time was pretty early and still had time to
Just because
have
of-
discussed and voted probably, but
Yeah.
that was all right. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's passed, so,
Yeah.
yeah, and, you know, it was very nice, the ceremony.
Yeah, no, that was
Yeah,
nice.
very nice.
So, anyway,
All right. Do you have anything from Lisa that you wanna, or just?
no, she is unexpectedly not here, so, there really wasn't much preparation. We did, since we had the last Board of Finance meeting, did I report on the bond sale or not?
No, you did
No,
not.
it was the next day.
That was the
Two
next
days
day.
later.
Two
Okay,
days
okay.
after.
So I was waiting for your report.
Yeah, well, I mean, there aren't many reports tonight, and Dave promised me 8 o'clock, no later, so. 2 point,
Are we on Selectmen's report then? Or still-
Yes.
I was asked a question and
No, I didn't know if we're in public
Which
comment
hand you
or-
wearing, that's all. We don't know.
any hat you want me to wear right now.
We'll move to the selectmen's
All
report,
right,
which is.
2.93, we sold,
Fabulous.
yeah, which, you know, as I reported to you at the last Board of Finance meeting, the 10-year was at, 2.66 when we sold bonds for the PD and the athletic fields and the high school and the middle school, or the middle school and the grammar school. And it was exactly 50 basis points lower, pretty much. Or something, not 50, 30 basis points lower. And the bond sale went off almost at, our other bonds were sold at 3.23. This was 2.93. So it was exactly, it correlated exactly to the 10-year and how much lower the 10-year was now than it was a year ago. Very favorable environment, obviously. I honestly see no, and famous last words, no other infrastructure that needs to be bonded, that I know, famous last words, right? We are building a capital reserve account that, given a couple years, is going to be healthy. So if there is a $500,000 item or a $600,000 item, we will have the money to do that. There's gonna be no need, I don't think, to go to bond for anything that should be under $1 million. You know, in the Harbor News last Thursday, did you guys see what Clinton is bonding for?
Yeah, some stuff that's gonna be,
Roads.
Roads.
And a lot of towns bond for roads, so that's not that unusual. An asphalt road, the lifespan is, my understanding, is about 10 years. About. And they're doing $4.5 million on a 20-year bond for items that are not gonna last 20 years and may last significantly less than that, possibly. They're also bonding the firefighters' breathing apparatus, which, in fact, JT sent an email today, we apply for grants for. Even if we get the grant, we would have to submit, the town's end of it would be about $150,000. However, that has been in JT's long-term capital plan, and over the last 2 to 3 years, in these budget cycles, we increased the firefighter sinking fund from 50,000 to 150,000. So we are gonna have enough of a sinking fund for the fire department that is not gonna be an issue, assuming they get a grant. And even if they don't get the grant, I suppose we could still do that.
That's almost a have to thing.
What?
I mean, they're running out, they have to be redone.
They do have to.
It's not
be
a question.
replaced. That's right,
It's
they
not an
do.
option.
But we did get a grant 15 years ago, and he's hoping to get in 1994, when was it? 1999, I think. And he's hoping to get another grant in 2 or 3 years for that. They apply for it every year to get them replaced, but I bet the feds probably look at that and say, well, it's not due, we'll give it to the fire departments that are due. There was one other thing they're bonding for, I don't know if anybody else remembers what it was, but it was another item that we have typically paid for as we went along by either capital accounts or surplus reserves or undesignated fund balance. And I showed that to Bob Fish. I showed the article to Bob Fish, and I said, Bob, did you see what Clinton is bonding for? And you've heard Bob talk about our net assets per capita, and it's high, it compares with Greenwich and Westport, and he goes, that's why. Because we bond for 20-year to 50-year items, we try not to bond for items that are 5 to 15 years. And that was Bob's comment on the fact that other towns, and I don't mean to single out Clinton, bonding for roads is not the most unusual, they're not the first to do it. And by the way, we probably don't spend enough money on roads anyway. I mean, a lot of our roads should be in better shape. But we're not in a position where we're bonding for roads. I'm sorry, Fern?
I said amen.
Yeah, I know that. So I just bring that to your attention. Go ahead.
What's the rate of return for the money that we have in the capital outsinking, just?
We have it all in a sweep account at Liberty Bank, and that gives us a little bit of a boost in terms of interest rate, but I'll bet, Bob, can you answer that question?
Might be 0.5%.
I was gonna say, it's less than 1%.
I'm just
It has to be.
saying, if you're sitting on 500,000 for a few years versus, going out to bond and, you could spend it better than.
Then get the rate of return on it, right? Yeah, you're right, you're right. The problem is you don't wanna totally deplete your undesignated fund balance. You don't wanna
Right.
keep going to that well just because it makes sense to pay for it in cash because you're not getting a good rate of return. I mean, what we're doing.
Is the capital outsinking
Well,
in the undesignated fund?
no.
So we've
That
got
they are-
undesignated fund,
So you're
capital
talking
sinking.
about capital non-recurring,
Right.
okay, versus undesignated fund balance. They're all in a sweep account,
Right.
but they are separated, right? One's undesignated and one is a capital non-reserve for capital, non-recurring rather, not reserve. And that has to go to the Board of Finance and town meeting for anything. And that's why it's nice to have that account.
So between those two accounts, we almost have potentially 4.5.
Maybe, yeah. Closer to 4.
Soft costs for the police station, can you give me an estimate on that?
I'd have to get you the budget on that.
Is this within the budget?
We're entirely within the budget right now.
No, I mean, that's part of the building
Yes.
project, the
Yep.
soft cost
Yes.
work?
That's
Yes,
what
it
we
is.
agreed.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That was moved the other night at town meeting.
Okay,
I can get you that budget.
all right, and then, is the school indicated to any, amount that their budget's gonna be for next year?
Who?
School
But
department?
I've heard nothing from the school department. I've heard nothing from them.
And how about the town side?
You know, Lisa and I started throwing some numbers around, but we're not even close. I'm hoping, to be honest with you, looking at the cost of personnel. We're looking at 2% raises, and I'm hoping we have a couple things coming off, so I'm hoping we can keep it right around there.
Okay, good.
That's what I'm hoping.
Carl, as the head administrator for the town here, and we talk about grant applications that the fire department is making now.
Yes.
As the head administrator, do you have to sign off on each grant that's applied for?
I sign off on many of the grants. I don't know that I sign off on every grant. Did I sign off on the boat grant at some point? No.
Just advised of it.
Yeah, you know, I am advised of every grant that is applied for, but I don't necessarily sign off on every grant.
So is every
But
grant?
Youth and Family Services, they apply for a lot of 5,000 grants, 15,000, and they will, Sue Consoli will email me and say, hey Carl, I want to apply for this grant, we got it last year, I think we're gonna get it this year, is that okay with you? And I'll be, you know, and so she'll let me know.
So, the fire chief then is the head administrator for the grant that they apply for over there?
He is the one who is applying for the grants as the fire chief, but he is advising me that he is applying for it.
Understand that?
So I could say, no, don't apply for it.
And we still hire outside persons for grant writers?
We don't hire outside persons for
So
grants.
all the grants that we're receiving now are done in-house by the
All those grants have,
personnel?
the steep grant, the brownfields grant, were both done, drafted by Susie Beckman, your new economic development director, bang for the buck there, because it wouldn't have been done, by some others. And the $1 million North Main Street grant, was done through the COG and Christine Nelson and Jeff Jacobson. It was kind of a group effort on that. That required a little more technical skill, so Jeff Jacobson helped a lot with that. But we do them in-house, we don't have a grant writer. Now, there are some grants that we use a grant writer called Larry Wagner and Associates. When we did the senior house, the town applied for a community development block grant a few years ago, and we got $450,000 to upgrade. It was actually part of about a $2 million package for the low-income senior housing. The town applied for that, and we, the developer ultimately gets the money under the auspices of the feds and the state to review the project. And we did use a grant writer for that grant. And if I showed you the binder, the 2 binders, you'd know why. When I kid you not, I mean like this.
That's a pretty technical type of
That
grant
grant was,
involving HUD and everything.
that
else.
grant was particularly technical, and Larry Wagner will help us with certain grants from Department of Housing or.
We did the grant for the WPCA for the first people that had it, the elderly, the low-income grants.
Yeah, that
Wagner did
that was very small.
Yeah.
That was like a 50,000, and that's a revolving account. It gets paid back a little bit, yeah.
And as the head administrator, do we keep a copy of the grant applications on file?
I do not have every grant application on file. The fire department presumably would keep their grant application in the fire department. I don't think I've seen it. But all the grants that you heard about at that town meeting, I have right here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been, I'll tell you what, we've gotten we're probably close to the Historic Resources Grant. Basically, I had Ted Levy do that grant. I mean, Ted Levy was willing to undertake it. I said, go ahead, we reviewed it. I mean, we're a small town, we can't pay $20,000 to somebody to write a grant for the most part. And so we use the resources we have. And I've already said her name once, but I will tell you that Susie Beckman I threw that Brownfields grant at her within 2 weeks of the deadline. And it went out and we got it. And that was pretty good. She did, so.
Maybe we can have her come to one of our meetings.
You
one
should,
day.
you know what, you should. That's a
And,
great idea.
We've talked before about having Larry come to our meetings also. He hasn't shown up
You
yet.
know, why don't you, maybe the first
I
meeting.
just actually made a note.
Yeah, you know, maybe the two of them knock off two of those departments, that's a good idea. You know, if you want, I was gonna say, I could, there are a couple litigation items that I could probably update you on, but that would probably be executive session.
Okay.
But, I mean, they're not critical, they're just kinda like an FYI type of thing.
Do you have other items?
No.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
What is the town process of disposing of assets like buildings? Is there a process, is there a protocol on
When
it?
you say disposing, like the old PD? What do you mean
Like
disposing of
the
buildings?
building on Bolcom, the house on Bolcom Road that we're gonna,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
The building that used to be the Park and Rec building that's across the street. Is there a process on that?
Yeah, there is.
And that is?
So, the house that we're acquiring in the preserve, we told River Sound and the Trust for Public Land that we did not want that house to go as part of the entire acreage. So, we acquired 928 acres for our piece, 3 million, you know, and then for $1, we acquired this other 2 acres with the intent that we would sell it. And so the process is the Board of Selectmen has to have a public hearing. I'll probably do that right in the middle of one of my Board of Selectmen meetings. It has to get referred to planning, the Planning Commission, because you are disposing of a town asset, and it has to go to town meeting.
What about like the Park and Rec building across the
A
street?
rec building, I don't know that we put a value on it. I don't know that we had a value on it that was,
To me, it's a liability, but I just wanted to ask the
yeah,
question.
no, we
Do
didn't
you
do.
want it?
No, I don't want it. I'm just
How about-
asking.
We were actually looking for people who wanted it. We
Yeah.
were like calling people to say, would you like this building?
Yeah.
It's a, here you go.
Big building.
I mean, smaller items like computers in the
Yeah.
building, the generator from the phone company that was gonna be used, but we had to put a different generator in.
Yeah, I think
When
we,
Larry disposes of a truck body and he brings a check in for $10,000, do we have a written
Yes.
application, written process
Yeah.
in-house?
yes, we do.
Where a supervisor or manager comes to the town
Yes.
hall and says, I wanna dispose of this asset, the 3 selectmen sign off on it,
Yes.
and then it moves on, so there's a chain of custody.
And you guys have done that policy. That's you have an asset disposal policy, and I think the limit is $5,000. Anything over 5,000 does go through a process, anything under $5,000, computer, you know,
Does
can,
that help, Brett?
Yeah, I just wanted to know the process. that's all.
and you guys have seen that policy, it's probably been a year or two that you've seen it.
I thought at one point we were gonna get a list of all our assets, all the vehicles and all that stuff.
We
never did generate that, we talked about that. a while back.
We probably have it, I mean, we have it, I mean, it's been developed. It can be lengthy, but sure. Yeah.
And the other thing is, any more in the transfer station? You had somebody over there looking at that, going single flow.
Yeah, you know, nothing's easy.
I know that's not easy.
So, the answer to that is this. There's a Boy Scout project that was up there many years ago that had the cans and bottles, and they built that little shed right in the middle. You guys all know this. I think that's part of the problem, is having the cans and bottles right in the middle of the transfer station. Because you have people stopping, disposing, you have people from the Boy Scouts running back and forth, you know. So I had a meeting with, not only that, but the Boy Scouts, when they pack up all the bottles, do you guys know where they go?
Yeah, plastic bags over in the corner.
They do. And then they get taken to Sarah, that other nonprofit, that
Yep, one in Westbrook.
gives employment. It's actually in East Haven, they have a whole processing center. And there's about 30 full-time jobs that are for mentally challenged people in this processing center. And Sarah gets some of the money from those cans and bottles that are disposed of at our Boy Scout station. So, I met with Sarah, and now I'm organizing with the Boy Scouts, and I have a meeting on the schedule for next week or the week after. And I'm gonna put the Boy Scouts and Sarah together, and I'm gonna try to get them to move all the cans and bottles over to the corner. Because, so we'll remove the cans and bottles, and if you want to dispose of your cans and bottles, they can go right in the bin, if you want to, single stream. If you wanna donate them to the Boy Scouts and Sarah, go for it. But you gotta go over there to do it. So I'm gonna try to get those two groups together to do that. Once I get rid of that, it's gonna be a lot easier to single stream. I single stream right now. I throw whatever I have in my car, I just throw it in one bin, except for trash. Trash goes in the trash. Newspapers, plastic, everything else, I just throw in. And so I have to get through the cans and bottles things because I don't want to offend the Boy Scouts because it's a fundraiser for them. And they make about $5,000 a year off that. And then Sarah makes another $5,000 a year off it. So it's just more complicated than I anticipated, to be honest with you.
I wanted to clarify my request, because I was talking about earlier, Larry Hayden, our IT individual.
Yeah, Larry Hayden, I knew you
And
meant.
also, I'd like to see Larry Bonin come before us again to tell us the update on the new town garage and
Sure.
when we're gonna have it, when we can, the people in general can go up and take a look at
You
it.
might want to try to get some of that in at the next meeting or something, you know, or first meeting in January, maybe do a couple of those, before you get the budget in March.
Any idea when the new town garage is gonna be completed?
Pretty much, it's darn close. I mean,
I know they've been paving up there.
yeah, they put a top course on, and some of the lights are up, insulation's all up, and a lot of the paneling on the inside is up, so I think, you know, he's
Getting close.
close, yeah.
You have something else on your mind?
After the meeting, I wanna tell Carl something, but that's it. Really, he wants to leave at 8, I think.
Any
No,
other
I'm talking
questions
about the
for,
executive, we don't
yeah.
have, that's not.
Well, I was gonna do it.
Well, I mean, there are people here now, so,
Well, it's the end of the meeting.
public comment.
If you want me to report on WPCA, I can do that real quick.
Nothing else.
Any other questions for Carl? Okay. Are there any
Yeah,
liaison reports?
WPCA in their last meeting, and for anybody who wants to look at them, just go Google Old Saybrook Town meetings, and you can pick up their meetings to see what they're really doing. They're talking about assessing the 300 people that have had their systems in, $1,200 for the soft cost. They haven't come to an agreement, that was what they left the table with last meeting. That means the cost is $2,400, which town picks up 12, or town and state pick up 12, you pick up whatever you pick up. But the homeowner will be $1,200 assessed. That's not a done deal at this point. It's not, probably not what people thought was being promised, but that's the best I think they're gonna offer, we won't know that.
That's actually about 10% of the soft costs.
Yeah.
Just so you know. I mean, the town is still picking up the lion's share of that.
Okay, and then as far as AT systems, they haven't identified those for the next phase going through, and that's gonna be the next hurdle we have to look at.
Yeah, I meet with Steve frequently on that. Someday we'll talk about that. Come in, we're looking at some other
But
options.
if anybody wants to go online and see what the meetings are, and you can scan through them, and they're on YouTube, and just go look at them, because I've been to every one, and I'm gonna continue to record them, so they'll be on there for you.
Any other liaison reports?
Nothing from the Board of Education.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to add 2 items to the agenda. Should I do it one at a time? I would make a motion to add additional public comment because additional public has shown up.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then secondly, executive session, I would add to the agenda.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
To discuss pending legal matters. How's that?
Fine.
That has to be stated, I guess, yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, now that some folks have shown up, is there any public comment?
I would just like to say I'm here again, and I would just like to impress upon the Board of Finance how important it is for the different departments to stay within their budgets, and that that it is very difficult for people to maintain their lifestyles because of the town spending. And it's not just the town, it's the state, it's the federal government. And if this town does not stop, if this town continues to spend, you are going to lose a lot of the people that are ready to retire because they cannot continue to pay excessively high taxes on their homes. So it would be prudent for this board to, unless anybody comes to you looking for money, if they've gone through, if it's the Board of Finance, the Board of Education, if they've gone through the Board of Finance Education, if they've gone through the Police Commission, the way that these commissions are set up, Park and Rec, then, and if it's an emergency, then I think you should consider it. Other than that, if you've given them X amount of dollars, it should stay within that X amount of dollars. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any additional public comment?
Hi, my name is Drew Hans. I have a question, and I'm not sure if this is the right place, but I figured you guys are controlling the money and some of the efficiency, so it would be it. Being the fact that I've been going to several different town meetings, I'm seeing a very different run meeting, like extremely different. And not to compliment you guys too much, this is actually one of the better meetings in communication and questions. And I'm wondering if there's a standard, because I don't want to right now say which meetings I've been to that are actually like the public is not basically allowed to talk and communicate what's going on. But it seems like in some of the efficiencies that I've heard talking about is the assets being inventoried a certain way, is being sold a certain way. Is there in normal corporate structure, there's different silos between the different departments, and I'm curious if there was a way of creating an economies of scale of how things are done. For example, the Board of Ed is a new process of a board member's missing. They just spent a bunch of money on to experiment how to figure out if someone's not there. And I'm watching you guys have several members, and it doesn't seem to be a big deal. So I'm curious if there could be kind of like an oversight that could maybe look at certain policies and procedures to see if that's it for efficiency. I don't know if this is the right place. I'm not trying to create work. It's really just an open question. But I've seen, as I'm going to these different meetings, I would swear I'm in different towns. And I'm seeing some people talk about doing a project that I'm like, well, that department's talking about something similar, and there seems like there could be an efficiency. And it's not a credit, I mean, I think it's a well-run town, but I think there might be a way to see it that I would not have seen if I wasn't at all these different meetings on a regular basis. So I see a great opportunity. Board of Finance, I'm thinking of money and I'm thinking of efficiency. So I'm throwing it out there as a question. If there's not a direct answer, which I'm not expecting, if I could, I'll bug Carl and say, what do you guys think? Is there a way I could talk to somebody about it? Because there's definitely an opportunity. Sorry for the long comment question, but it's been a very interesting thing seeing these different meetings. And I see a great opportunity for some benefits to finance and better communication with the town. So question, comment, I guess, so that's me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any additional public comment?
Motion adjourned.
All right.
You have to adjourn
We
executive session and
will
come back.
adjourn to executive session.
Right.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Who are you inviting into the executive session? I maybe you should just note that. Nobody needs to. It doesn't, it's not a personnel matter, it's not anything, so.
I would invite you into
Yes,
executive session.
please.
You guys are done?
Yep, thank you.